Recording.
Oh, wow. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Wow. Awesome. I'm going to wait a minute or so for things to level out for everyone to come in. You're welcome to say hello in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome to one of the best titled sessions of the conference. So I think we've leveled it. You know, it's like buying wine by the name of the label. It's like, oh, I know. I love the colors of slides at this conference. So nice. Welcome, everybody. It looks like we're pretty much leveled out as far as coming in. Welcome to Colorado. I'm just south of Seattle. Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to start. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jerry Ventura, and I'm moderating this session. I'm glad to welcome Veronica Douglas and Mia Warren, who will be presenting Flying the Plane While You're Building It, Cultivating a New Team Through Organizational Change. Before we get started, let's go over a few logistical items. One, this session is being recorded. Captions are available during this session by clicking on the Live CC button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Thank you to Danielle Ziova for providing these. Please use the Q&A feature for any presentation questions. You can choose to do this anonymously. There will be 10 to 15 minutes for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please use the chat for general comments or technical issues. Rebecca Kuklich will be monitoring the chat for any questions and comments. Rebecca will also be adding some links into the chat as they're doing right now. One is for collaborative resource sharing. If you think of a related reading, podcast, video, or something else, please share it with us in Calm's recommended resources document or in the chat. Due to Google Docs limitations, we ask that you close out of the document after you have added a resource. One of our volunteers will drop this information in the chat. And the next link is our conference code of conduct. So you're welcome to review that. And now I'm going to turn things over to our presenters, Veronica and Mia.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. I hope you've all been having a great conference thus far. And as mentioned, our title is Flying the Plane While You're Building It, Cultivating a New Team Through Organizational Change. To introduce ourselves, my name is Mia Warren, and I am the Assistant Head of Teaching and Learning at the University of Houston Libraries.
And I'm Veronica Arellano Douglas, Head of Teaching and Learning at the University of Houston Libraries. And I have my two dogs with me today. Bella is in the back. Yoshi's sitting right by my feet. So apologies in advance if you hear Chihuahua barks, because that's what they do. We wanted to add in our own land acknowledgement in addition to the one at the beginning of the conference and the ones shared by all of the presenters that we've seen so far. So Mia and I are speaking from Houston, Texas. We both work at the University of Houston's MD Anderson Library, which is located in Houston's 3rd Ward. It's a historically and currently predominantly African-American community. Our campus borders the city's 2nd Ward, which is home to a predominantly Latinx population, and it sits on the unceded lands of the Atacapa, Ishak, Tapelam, Coahuiltecan, the Sanaband of the Tonkawa tribe, and the Karankawa nations. Only the Atacapa, Ishak, and Tapelam Coahuiltecan nations have survived colonization. We would like to encourage you to know your community and support the people in it in whatever way you are able to do so, through your money, time, actions, or voice.
Okay, and this is what we'll be going over today. And hopefully you'll engage with us and share your experiences around these concepts as we go through them. We'll create discussion. We'll have discussion questions for you all to share in the chat. And so that we can all think more about creating and maintaining these effective teams through creating community, creating a sense of purpose, planning for success. But the semester continues, flying the plane.
Okay, so we're actually going to start off with just very brief background and context because we think it will give you a sense of sort of what we were working with. Perhaps you found yourself in a similar situation at your place of work, or maybe it's super different. So again, just some background context. Our library went through a significant restructure in October of this past year, 2021. It was the culmination of like a year of planning. And at its core, what we were really doing was moving from a subject liaison model of librarianship to a functional specialist one. Throughout the pandemic and even before, we'd lost several liaison colleagues to retirements and new opportunities. And the liaison model was just proving to be unsustainable and ineffective. Liaisons were getting more and more responsibilities, workloads were really inequitable, and people were being asked to be all things to all people. So our liaison services department was dissolved, and after months of discussion about what people enjoyed about their work, where they wanted to see themselves in the organization, everyone within liaison services was reassigned to roles in one of three departments. Our research services department, which was formerly digital research services, collection strategies and services, which was a newly created department, and teaching and learning, which is ours. This is my first position as a department head. I was a supervising coordinator previously, and this is Mia's first supervisory position and first position as assistant department head. We have 3 teaching and learning librarians and 1 student success librarian. And fingers crossed, we will be posting 2 more positions for our department in the coming months. So as new department leaders, one of the things we realized we needed to do kind of right off the bat was create a sense of community in our department. The connections that we had amongst ourselves within the liaison services department were really strong. People felt a sense of community and they were excited about their new roles in teaching and learning, but they were also really nervous, right? This was a big transition for some folks. We wanted to make sure that people felt connected and that they could work well with each other. Again, we had all come from the same department, but we all didn't necessarily have a close working relationship with one another. So before we talk a little bit about how we created community, we would love to hear in the chat your response to this question. What helps you feel a sense of community at your place of work? And go ahead and just respond in the chat and we'll take a look. Yeah, culture of care and appreciation, shared purpose, absolutely. Fun, that's super important. Validating successes, being kind, belonging, collaborative projects, shared experiences. Yeah, joy, right? Some authenticity, celebrating wins. Oh my gosh, chocolate. Mia and I had a whole conversation about cake the other day and its importance. So yes, absolutely. These are all really fantastic responses. And it's been really interesting to see the commonalities that kind of come through in what folks have shared. So we really wanted to set a good foundation for our department. In liaison services, we had norms for everything from meetings to birthdays to like calendar upkeep. Oh, there goes one of my dogs. And we knew we wanted to start our department by figuring out how to best work together. So we began by creating a community agreement. As you can see on the screen, a community agreement is a shared agreement between people about how we communicate, interact, and relate to one another. They help us foster a sense of connection, create accountability when needed, and provide a foundation with which to communicate through disagreement or decision making. So our process was first to ask everyone in our department this question: what do you need from every person in this group to collaborate effectively, feel empowered and supported, and do your best work? Which is a really big question, but I think it really got to the heart of how we wanted to work together. So we all brainstormed on a Jamboard, which you can kind of see here. Once all of our brainstorming was done, Mia and I created preliminary categories. As a department, we drafted agreement statements based on our brainstorm categories and asked members to vote on what was most important to them. We created a draft and used the gradients of agreement process to come to a consensus and ultimately vote on our community agreement. It's a little lengthy and I put it on the slides, but we're happy to share this with you all later. And one really nice thing about our community agreement is that one of our department members created like a beautiful version of it on Canva, laminated it, so we all have it in our offices. But I think it like really speaks to how seriously we take it and how this is very important for how we work together. Let's see. Okay, so once we had our community agreement, we wanted to talk about how to stay connected. We're back in the office, but things are still sort of dicey with the pandemic. So we spend a lot of time behind closed doors in our offices, and we still do a lot of virtual meetings in our library. So we all agreed to meet once a week for an hour as a team. And these meetings are for everyone. So Mia and I will send out an agenda, but anyone can add to it. If you're working on a project and you need feedback, if you have a topic you want to discuss, all of that is open for every member of the team. We also have learning meetings once a month with rotating facilitators. So someone from our group just takes turns to facilitate maybe a new reading, a podcast, a concept or an activity. And it's a way for us to kind of share that learning responsibility, and everyone kind of has a piece of it. And then, yes, cake is important, time to celebrate. So we try at the end of every meeting to offer kudos, allow people to share like one good thing that's happened to them that week. We had a end of the semester celebration in the fall. We're going to try and do another one again this spring. But I think it's really important to come together as a team to do so. So I'll pass it on to Mia now.
All right, so we created this sense of community with our community agreement, but we also wanted to create a sense of purpose. It's something else that's really important in building a new team. Why do we do what we do and how do we do it? And that actually leads us into our next discussion question. What helps you feel a sense of purpose in your work? So whatever helps you feel a sense of purpose, you can put in the chat. A lot of people say helping and supporting others. Yes. Tied to university goals, a lot of positive impact, providing for students, creating goals. Meaningful work. Feeling like the work matters and the people doing it matters also. Some learning new things. Someone said all of these. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, so, oh, we got more people coming. Ideas implemented, setting annual goals. Awesome. All great things. We did some things similar. So we asked some important questions. We asked, what do we do? What do we value? And how do we want to do this work? So this was a new department, is a new department that evolved from the previous instruction team that did similar work. And we needed to ask, now that we had this new department, what do we do? Do we continue all the work that the instruction team previously did? What about the work of former liaisons and other duties that had been repurposed or removed altogether? And this is a question that we're still asking because this structure is still fairly new. So as different activities or opportunities arise, we're continuing to ask these questions. Do we do this? Do we value this? And is this a way that we want to do this work? So do we still do orientations, even though we have a library committee dedicated to campus engagement? Do we still teach certain software that were, I guess, part of someone's previous job? And what do we value? So we want to emphasize the importance of taking care of ourselves. Someone mentioned feeling like the work was important as well as people doing it. So we want to emphasize that we want to take care of ourselves and each other no matter what the actual work is, as we pointed out in our community agreement. And we wanted to make sure that the values that we had in the department were shared across all of us and that other people understood what those were. And finally, how do we want to do this work? What are the steps we want to take? And so while we were asking these questions, our new university strategic plan was just announced in the fall, and our library strategic plan is still in process. So we knew that our work would be in alignment with the mission, the vision, and the values created by those steps above us, but we also have the opportunity to determine ourselves how we want to go about it and what our own plans would be as a department. So to that end, we created some guiding documents. So for one of our initial department meetings, we had the department look at the previous instruction team's program philosophy and purpose statement. And using those and our current roles or responsibilities that we had through our new position descriptions, we asked questions about what the department wanted to keep of this purpose and philosophy and what needed to change and what was missing. So based on the feedback we received from that, we created essentially a purpose statement and a philosophy through setting a mission and approach to information literacy. And after sharing drafts of this purpose statement and philosophy, we asked for feedback and edits, and the department came to a consensus about those. We also created programmatic learning outcomes and planning documents to set initial priorities for our department. So we set student learning outcomes, and we also set some planning documents for the information literacy programs that we have, as well as our student success and co-curricular learning, which is a new focus for us in this library and in this department. So we had to add in a lot of wording around student success and co-curricular learning and engagement. And as a new leader, this is my first time being a manager in a department and being an assistant department head, I was able to have a lot of impact and start creating these planning documents around what student success and co-curricular learning looks like at our institution, because no one had really taken time previously to sit down and have focus and do that. So that's been a really important growth experience for me personally in doing planning and visioning around something that was a part of people's jobs previously, doing outreach as liaisons, but didn't become a major focus up until this point. I'm going to pass it to Ronnie to talk about how we planned for success.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, so at this point, we kind of knew how we wanted to work together as a team. We knew how we wanted to approach our work in terms of like our philosophy of teaching and information literacy. And we articulated what it was that we valued, what we wanted to see in our work. But there was also that really practical reality of how we were going to put our values into action. So we needed a plan to be able to start off our work in an effective way. I did a lot of advocating for our department with our dean, who was really open to this idea about needing the time to plan. We wanted to make sure it was an effective transition, that people felt prepared to undertake this work, and that we were able to do so successfully. So thankfully, she completely understood that in her previous experiences as a department head. So we actually began immediately with training. Keep in mind, we were all former members of a liaison department. Some of the folks who ended up in our new department had really specific liaison responsibilities, like Mia, who was our sciences librarian, and others were functional specialists, like me. I was an instruction coordinator, and we realized we wanted to make sure that everybody sort of felt comfortable with the work that we'd be doing. So we had a series of initial training sessions with all of the former subject librarians to introduce us to resources, approaches to research, and teaching information literacy in their respective disciplines. We did the same around data information literacy, and then also, I believe, working with our English language learning unit on campus. So I also met with librarians early on to determine kind of where they wanted to grow their skills and where they felt like they needed professional development. So together we sought out and really continue to seek out professional development opportunities. We're tackling topics through our learning sessions, and we're doing a lot of like reading and self-study, as well as like group study. We also did and are continuing to do a lot of co-teaching within the department so that we can share our expertise as teachers and subject specialists. And we really encouraged folks to do collaborative research consultations with one another. So for example, business was one of the areas that I think was really intimidating to a lot of us. That wasn't a subject area that anyone on teaching and learning was familiar with. So we had training with our former business librarian, did a lot of collaborative co-teaching and co-research consultations. And even after we would do a consult or a class, we'd share with everyone else like what we did, what resources we used, how we approached it. And that's how we've been learning together. Mia and I set our departmental priorities for the new year. And we did that based on everyone's experiences and feedback in the fall. And so that really helped our team create their own goals for the year, because they could see how those fit into departmental priorities and then into the library overall. Our teaching and learning librarians and I completed a map of our university's undergraduate curriculum, identifying high impact courses in every major and noting which ones would be good possibilities for information literacy integration. We recognize we can't do it all. We're still a really small department, but it gives us a sense of how we can prioritize our work. And Mia worked with myself and our student success librarian to do that same kind of visioning and priority setting for co-curricular engagement, because there are so many opportunities in that area. So this was the how of our work, and we really continue to learn and plan and kind of do it all at the same time. Yeah, Annalie, it is kind of a lot of work. It's been a really interesting time, but we have a fantastic team. Everyone is super engaged and really excited about direct contact with students that maybe they didn't get as much as they did as a liaison. So yeah, our discussion question for you, kind of seeing the things that we did, thinking about your own institutional context, what would set your team up for success, either programmatically or individually? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat. Yeah, but sorry, the communication is super important. Transparency. Yeah, setting aside time. Yeah, I think acknowledging that change is not easy really goes along with that vulnerability piece and is something that we all felt, right? Working with unfamiliar subject areas, new faculty, new classes. Yeah. Yeah, Rebecca, that would be great. These are fantastic. And feel free to continue adding those into the chat, please. I think this is a great learning experience for everyone here, but also for both Mia and I as well. So I'm gonna pass things on to Mia, who's gonna talk about doing all this work as the semester continues.
Right. So we were talking about all this planning and building that we were doing, but our transition and creation of a new department happened in October, which was the middle of the semester of last year. So we had to continue doing all of these things, teaching, consults, we were training in order to do teaching and consults. So this is the next part. The semester continues, staying in the air, we're flying the plane, right? So we have to stay in the air as we're building the plane. So as we made sure, Veronica's mentioned this a couple of times, we advocated for time to plan. It was very important. As our new department head, Veronica made sure it was emphasized to administration that we needed to take this time to lay the foundation as much as possible and prioritize it. We had all been in the same department previously, but as she had mentioned, we had worked with each other at varying levels and in different ways. So we needed time to transition and create this new department together. I see everyone's talking about how important October is. Yes, it was it was a lot going on, and it was our first semester back fully in person on campus as well. So there was a lot happening. Next, we made sure to emphasize an equitable distribution of workload. With the dismantling of the liaison programs, we were now responsible for all of the information literacy classes, all the research consultations, or many of them, and a lot of the outreach that was done by the library. So we divided the workload as much as possible and tried to make it equitable. And that was emphasized when we discussed how we work with each other and as part of our community agreement, ensuring that our work practices were equitable and accessible and that we would help each other. And I think we've had a really good department in that we're all willing to take things on, we're willing to help each other, because things happen all the time. So we're more than willing to step in for each other and support each other. We talked about all the collaborative work with teaching and consults, all of that. So we're all willing to kind of take on this work and help spread it around as much as possible. It was also very important that we say no. We did a workshop a few weeks ago on software that used to be a heavy part of someone else's job. And we decided that because the university actually supports a tool that's similar, and because we probably won't do that anymore because they're now creating support within the university for another software that does similar things. So I was once heavily involved in our finals event that we had. We had breakfast at finals time, or tacos if it's our finals fiesta or our finals mania event. But now that we've decided that we wanted to focus more on events that will support our information literacy concepts that we're trying to teach and create a more engaging atmosphere with students, that we're going to let orientations and things like our finals event fall to the campus engagement committee we have in our library that's focused more on that large scale marketing and outreach events. We've also empowered our team to say no to something that simply can't be done when professors ask for a session next week or the next day or whatever, being encouraged to say no to those things that we simply don't have time to do or will take too much of our engagement for little or no return. So making sure that we're been able to empower people to say no to things that they simply can't do. We can't do everything. It's not possible. So being able to say no to things is important. I saw someone in the chat mention communication as how they could, a way to get more success. And we communicate constantly. Our department sends emails, we're on Teams, we have our own team space. When things are super urgent, we'll get a text from Veronica or from somewhere else about what's happening. And if we receive something from an administration, it's passed down quickly and re-emphasized and reminded about if needed. And we also make sure to leave room for feedback from our department with their feedback and questions that we can take up to administration around concerns that they have. And we make sure to leave those channels as open as possible. I also want to point out during the what do we do, how do we do it, what do we value type of discussions, talking with the other people that we think something should fall to, those lines of communications are also important. And lastly, we're also continuing the relationships that we've already built. So I advocated to being in this role because I love student success work. Doing outreach work was my favorite part of my job, and seeing where we can build information literacy outside of the classroom and showing how important information is in all aspects of our lives. Information literacy goes beyond the papers that someone has to write in a class. This is things, skills that we can build in that students will use for the rest of their lives in various ways. So I wanted to show the importance of that and make that a larger part of my role here at the library. So I'd already established relationships with our career services, with some of the faculty that live in our residence halls, and we're continuing a lot of that work. There were already relationships established with our English classes that most students take and the technical writing class that all engineers take on our campus, and the research methods and psychology class. So we continue those connections as well and make sure to let those faculty know that we're still doing this work, that who they talk to may shift a little bit, but we are still here and wanting to continue those connections. And we have some of our former liaisons that had classes that they worked with regularly as our continued relationships too, that they're still working with some of those classes as well. So Veronica, how's it going?
Well, Mia, so this is a question that we get a lot from colleagues in and out of the library, from our families, from our friends, because they know that fall was a really hectic semester for us. And the short answer is that we're busy, but we're doing really well. Our teaching and learning librarians and student success librarian are building connections across the university. They're targeting those high impact classes and really making partnerships with faculty and units on campus. But I think the thing we're most proud of is the fact that the librarians in our department collaborate with each other without us, right? So, you know, they will seek out feedback from Mia or I, but frequently if there's, you know, 3 teaching and learning librarians who are free on an afternoon, they'll get together and like talk through learning outcomes for a class, or, you know, a script for a learning object that they're creating. And it's been really, really wonderful to see people collaborating kind of unprompted. They really value one another's expertise and they rely on each other in a way that I think is really healthy. It's critical to them building their professional identity as teaching and learning and student success librarians. And they're also kind of collaboratively building their expertise and confidence too. We still, you know, have some questions and uncertainties, right? This is a new approach where we formerly had a liaison model. You know, is it going to work long-term with the number of people that we have? Can we grow our team? If not, what do we stop doing, right? Also, there are still times when we have to check in with our colleagues. I say have to, we do it often. Check in with our colleagues in research services and collections, just to try and figure out, like, is this really a question for you, or is this a question for me? Who does this belong to? And we're still working out some of those areas, but thankfully everyone is really collaborative. Overall, our team, we feel like, has a really renewed sense of energy and focus. I think some folks who where liaisons had that very familiar liaison experience. I'm a former liaison too, where you might get a ton of response from one department and like radio silence from another, despite years of reaching out, trying to make connections. So in this way, and with our new structure, they're really seeing the impact of their work in concrete ways, which has been really nice. And there's like an opportunity for them to stretch and grow their expertise. So we continue to learn through our learning sessions, professional development opportunities, shared ideas, conferences. And we're actually at our meeting next week talking about what we want to do as a group for professional development this summer, because that's always a nice time. So we have a really fantastic team, which I think is like half the battle. And everyone is just super committed to the students on campus, and we really appreciate all of their hard work. So that is kind of our process in a nutshell. I'm sure there are questions. I can see them growing on the Q&A, but we wanted to share our contact information in case you had additional questions that we couldn't get to this afternoon. And I think we're going to do Q&A now, right, Jerry?
Yes, thank you very much, Veronica and Mia. We're going to go ahead and there's a lot of questions, kind of processy stuff. As far as flying the plane, there's a question about how many people are on this plane. What's the overall staff number, librarians, non-librarians in this public services portfolio?
Yeah, so we, it's myself, Mia, 3 teaching and learning librarians, and 1 student success librarian. And we had approval on our faculty hiring plan to hire an additional teaching and learning librarian and an additional student success librarian. So I should say that the way that we've sort of like, I kind of divided the work, even though we all do a little bit of everything, is that Mia and the student success librarians really focus more on co-curricular learning, so experiential learning classes, undergraduate research, student groups, student support units on campus. And the teaching and learning librarians are really looking more at like curricular integration. But again, we all do a little bit of everything and help each other out as needed.
So short answer, 6 people right now, 8 people soon, hopefully.
Great. And then there's a question about, can you explain your choice to have a department head and an assistant department head in what sounds like a relatively small department?
Yeah, I'm also like, I think Mia should really speak to this as well. We looked at so many different models for how this department could turn out. And one of the benefits of having an assistant department head was to keep that like co-curricular learning in teaching and learning, but have someone really kind of responsible for like overseeing the planning, right? Like we do our planning together, but Mia owns so much of that. And then Mia also did a really amazing job advocating for herself, which I'll let her talk about.
Yeah, so I will start by saying I've been here almost 7 years, and this is the 3rd structure I've been in. So we do a fair amount of shifting, and I've been in a department with 2 department heads. I've had a coordinator above me with a department head above them, and now I'm an assistant department head. And that became, I always tell people one of my favorite things about working here is how supportive the people are generally, the administration is, but also our onboarding process is very involved and it's really good. But that also means that managers spend a lot of time managing. So part of this was that we needed someone else, I think, to kind of split up the managing workload, because we've seen departments here that have a number of librarians in particular, and it's a lot that is like essentially their entire job all their time. So having an assistant head And being able to, as Veronica said, advocate for myself to be in this position meant that I got to have some managerial experience, which I am enjoying and like, and also kind of like she said, help split the work up, and gives me a chance to kind of plan something that we do want to be a much larger part of our institution, but that one person would not be able to handle doing all that we would want to do around co-curricular engagement, as well as running like the core classes kind of instruction part of the program too. So when they first showed us that the idea of having an assistant department head that was going to be over student success, I said, ooh, I want to do that. And kind of gave justification as to why and talked about how passionate I was about the work and all the work I had done before. And so that's how we kind of ended up with this. I think it's also helpful, for example, I'm in the office today, Veronica's at home. So if something happens, like I'm here and she can be there, and like the department can still very much function with either one of us being in or out or that type of thing. So it's been really good. And I think it definitely helps because even with a small department, that managerial work takes up a lot of time. So.
Yeah, and it really, I don't know, I think it's been really fantastic to not like be a solo department head, like to have Mia to bounce ideas off of, to like offer perspective. It's really, really helpful. And just really quickly, I wanted to also say something that was really important to our library dean, is that like, we're both women of color, like in a managerial position, and that was not a small thing for our dean, Athena Jackson. That was really important to her as well.
Awesome. This one's kind of related. It sounds like having a head and assistant head has been really valuable and could help prevent some of the isolation that can come with leading and developing a new department. Was this structure something you had to advocate for or that the institution suggested? And would you have advice for a team or team lead wanting to advocate for a similar structure?
Yeah, it was part of the proposal. So, oh man, how deep are we going to get into this? Our previous department head worked with all of the coordinators in our department. Liaison services was huge. At its height, it was like 18 people. I think we were down to 14. And we had a department head and like a bunch of supervising coordinators and teams. It was very complicated. And in thinking about this department and the work to be done, Mia's point is a really astute one, right? Like, you don't want to spend all of your time managing, because at our organization, managing and coaching and mentoring are taken really, really seriously, which I think is a great thing. But we also need to have time to do the planning and the actual work, right? So that was part of the justification that we used for the assistant department head, as well as that kind of like co-curricular, curricular emphasis. I done a lot of teaching, lots of curricular integration. My strengths are not necessarily in outreach, and that's where like Mia's expertise really comes in. So that also helped with us advocating for that position. And yes, it does help the isolation.
How did you create buy-in with folks who were tied to subject versus functional model of public services librarian work? I could see this being challenging, says the attendee.
Mia, do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, I'll probably add something in, but you can start.
I think we mentioned at the beginning of our presentation that the reorg was like a year of conversation, one-on-one, in small groups, follow-up conversation. Here's a conversation with a possible structure. Here's a conversation with another possible structure. Asking people what they liked the best about their job. So that buy-in like took a whole year for the reorg, and that was led by Carrie Krillman, who was our department head at the time and is now head for the collections department and our interim dean for discovery. So I will say it was more difficult for some people than others. And for some of the folks who had subject expertise who ended up in teaching and learning, I don't ever want them to lose that connection to that subject area. I think it's a real asset, like for them within our department, but also should they decide to leave and go to another organization, they still have that skill set they can take with them. So yeah, that was my perspective, but Mia was an actual subject librarian, so I'll let her offer hers.
I was in sciences. I told them you could take my sciences, you can have them. I do not mind. I loved being a science librarian. I really did. But also it was, I really wanted this opportunity as well. So I appreciated that. Like Veronica said, so me and I guess 2 other of our teacher and learning librarians were previous liaisons, and they still do a fair amount of work with those same departments that they worked with before. And they've helped all the rest of us gain knowledge in working with those subject areas, which has also been very helpful. I would agree that it was harder on some people than others. And there was a lot of conversation about what people exactly want to do, how tied they were to those types of things. I would just happen to be one of those people that was really okay with with losing it. But I think a lot of people in teaching and learning appreciate the fact that we get to work with such a variety now. It's like we are essentially a reference desk for everyone, which is fun for most of us and challenging in a lot of ways. And I've enjoyed it so far. So yeah.
Awesome. Here's another question. My department is brand new, but it's also in the process of hiring 2 additional people. Would you recommend waiting to do some of this work until the new people arrive, or starting right away and revisiting it in a few months when hopefully the new hires start?
That's a really good question. Based on our experience, we thought our positions would be up already. I would say start doing the work with the people that you have now. And when your new folks start, make sure that there is time and space and opportunity for them to share their perspectives and their expertise. Just because like you never know when in terms of start dates, searches, and it might actually, if they're new to the organization and new to the profession, they might be really overwhelmed with all of the things that they're trying to learn. And having at least something for them to offer feedback on might feel a bit more concrete to them. I don't know, that's my perspective. What do you think, Mia?
I would also say that just because we made these things don't mean that they can't change. Like in our previous structure, our mission and vision and values was kind of reevaluated, at least maybe not every year, but definitely if we had a major shift or something happened. So I think having the foundational structure there is helpful. I know that I was definitely, when we started talking about getting new people, I was like, I want them to have something to come into, right? Because student success is brand new. There's things, but not like there wasn't a solid thing. So I wanted to make sure that was there before we start talking about bringing in new people. So I think it's helpful to have those foundational documents there. But I understand the question of like, will they buy into them right away? And that may not be the case. And maybe they have, like Veronica said, suggestions or feedback or thoughts on them. But at the same time, like if people feel, that they want to revisit some of these things and think about wording or put an emphasis on something different, I think making sure that there is an opportunity for that if needed as things change and grow is also helpful. I think remembering that nothing has to necessarily stay solidified is important with that too.
All right, here's another one. What advice would you have for a department wanting to have these types of conversations and community building and planning opportunities when there's not a lot of administrative institutional support that provides the space and time to do so? Also, thank you so much. As someone asked to lead what feels like a very similar new team in size and scope, this has been so helpful.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And please feel free to reach out afterwards if there's anything else we can offer. Oh man, that administrative support is super, super critical. I would say, can you, is there a time that you all meet, right? Like, can you use those meeting times to at least begin some of that planning process, even if it's just an hour, like once a week? During the summer, if you have kind of a lull in teaching and outreach activities, can you set aside just like half a day where this is what we're going to do? We're going to start talking about the work that we're doing, what we want to continue doing, what we don't. It's maybe just like trying to carve out some of that time, if possible, and build it into moments that you already have together. I don't know. That's
I would
tough.
also say start with something like small. Like you don't like we have a lot of documents and things, and it doesn't have to be as robust as that. If that means you have enough time to nail down a purpose statement or a mission that everyone can buy into, and that's what you have, that may be enough to at least start the conversation and start and have something that people can kind of build on and feel connected to all together.
Do you have hybrid working arrangements or all on site? If hybrid, how are you managing connections? What tips do you have for engagement with each other when not all are on site?
That's like the question. We are mostly on site, but ad hoc alternative working arrangements for librarians. I'm laughing because it's a question that we're trying to figure out within our institution. Staff who really needed this option, and it's important that they start with them, are able to do alternative work arrangements, so they can like elect a hybrid option, completely remote, or a flex working schedule. We've always had more flexibility as librarians, so we're kind of doing it more so on an ad hoc basis. We're mostly on campus, but there are times when we need to be at home. In terms of staying connected, we have our like weekly meetings that we, like I said, we also use them just to check in with each other. What are you watching? Like what's new? Like what'd you do this weekend? What good things are happening? We have our celebrations around birthdays and at the end of the year. If we're all in the office, we'll frequently like go and get a team coffee together. There's many coffee shops on campus, thankfully, or go and grab lunch. Yeah, it's just really, really important for us to stay connected and see how we're doing. Oh, I should say we also have lots of one-on-ones too with the people that we supervise. That's also important, kind of beyond our team meeting.
Going back to process, could you please talk more about the process by which you created the team norms?
Yeah, the community agreement, we were talking about this, and I don't think we ever settled on an answer. Did it take us like 2 or 3 or 4 meetings? I can't remember. It took a long time.
I don't think it took 4. It probably
No?
took 3 because we did like we explained, we did the brainstorming of what do you need from everyone, and we gave time for that. And then we took time to kind of organize. And then the statements kind of got created from those. And then we had to have people, and then we probably workshopped the statements that we came up with and then did a grading to agreement on it. It probably took about 3. And I think I feel like the important part is when we asked what do people need from each other and what we kind of wanted this community to look like. I think that we have people who are always willing to give feedback and are open with their feedback, which I also appreciate. And I think is really important that we create a space that people can freely express what they would like from this team, from this department. And so I think that really helped with that. And I know that can be hard in some places for sure too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think by everyone answering that question and contributing, that really, help folks feel a sense of connection to what we ultimately agreed on. And then we did sort of collaboratively draft statements and edit them, and our gradients of agreement, right? You like from 1 to 5, do you strongly support, not support at all? There were times when we had to like modify some of the statements or change them around a bit. And that really helped us come to consensus. So it wasn't just like majority voted yes, so we accept it, but like, no, we all agree that this is what we want to do. I really like that process.
Could you talk about the ties to the other 2 units? All 3 units are closely related. Much of the work overlaps across patron groups. Are you having joint meetings, etc.? Did the other 2 units go through the same planning process? If not, what did they do?
That's a good question. We do. So I have weekly meetings with the department head for research services and the department head for collections, strategies, and services. So we're always letting each other know what's happening in our departments. And then also as part of the restructure, teaching and learning, research services, and access services got put under one associate dean. So we meet every 2 weeks to talk about things that are impacting all of our departments, try and work together. I can't speak to what happened in the other departments, but that's how we stay connected to what's happening in research services and collections. And there are times when we end up collaborating on things like, you know, we just had undergraduate research day. And so that's something that we worked on having a library presence at with research services, right? Or collections, anytime they need to like, well, they haven't done it yet. They're going to have to start reviewing things, and they're going to end up needing feedback, right, from people who are working with instructors. So it's, we're learning how to work together in this new structure, and it's still a process.
We also share a space, I want to point out. We're all in the same office, suite of offices. So we see each other from time to time, you know, when people come out of their office off of Zoom. So that's also helpful, I think, in kind of maintaining some of those connections for sure.
Yeah, that's good. That is also helpful that our offices are right next to each other.
Easy transfer of pie and cake. Boy,
Yes.
I'm not going to get to all the questions. You said your team is all very involved. Was that always the case? Do you think the process you laid out has people, do you think, would people be less invested if the process you laid out wasn't laid out the way it was laid out? Oh, I didn't read that right, but
That's okay.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I do know what you mean. I think everybody that ended up on teaching and learning was super invested in students and like really invested in student success. And I think that initial buy-in really helped. But I think maybe the process we went through also really helped people connect with one another too. Ooh,
we are
at time?
technically at the end of this session. So thank you very much, Veronica and Mia, for answering all these questions to the very engaged attendees. Thank you so much. And don't forget the evaluation survey that is available. They would love to see any feedback you have about this session. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate y'all. Do we sign out now? Do we leave? I don't know.
Yeah, you can go, Kath.
You can.
You can go walk the